Welcome to The Innovators by Scandinavian Man, a podcast about our changing world with the people who influence it. On this show, we cover some of the best and brightest minds within design, culture, fashion, technology, and sustainability. Mostly, but not always, from a Scandinavian perspective. I'm Conrad Olsson, and my guests today are the founders of Mand, Signe Ungermand and Maria Herholdt Engermann. Mand is a cinematic virtual reality company that seeks to rethink, develop, and challenge the use of immersive media in order to create the next era of content, film, and shared experiences. The company is based in Aarhus, Denmark, but this interview takes place at the CIFF Trade show during Copenhagen Fashion Week. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So great to be here. We're actually sitting in the middle of an exhibition that you have been part of creating. Perhaps, Maria, you can start with telling us what is it that we're seeing around us here?
Yes. So we are a VR company focusing on immersive technology, and we have been doing a collaboration with VR Design School in Herning, where we made an alternative showing of fashion and showing the graduate students final collections through immersive technology.
Right now we're sitting in the Era 360 space, the space that we've occupied here at CIFF in the B section. At this installation you are able to see 11 different graduates' VR films, maximum length of 2 minutes, where you really dig into their universes and get a sense of who they are as designers, what they stand for, and how they wish to project their feelings into their collaborations and their clothing. What we also have down in the very end of the corner here is a little augmented reality installation. What we've done is we've scanned each of the graduate students' models with their designs. We've used a technique called photogrammetry so that you get a very realistic sense of, or a photorealistic sense of how the clothing looks like. And then we've projected that into the room here. So from one angle, it doesn't look like there's anything on the floor, but if you go right around the corner to the screen, you can actually see that there are 11 models standing there where you can go around and take pictures with them.
All right, so now we're already in it now. I feel like I have so many questions.
We get so excited about this.
That's good, and the reason I wanted to have you guys on is I think you're spearheading something super interesting here, and I think it's also something that needs to happen within the world of fashion. And the fashion needs to merge with technology much more that they're doing today. So just to get some of the basics right here, you're working with VR and AR. So for someone who is not familiar with these technologies, or maybe think they are, but wants to get freshen up, what is VR and what is AR? Maria, maybe.
Yes. Virtual reality is usually when you use a head mount, a device that you put in front of your eyes and around your head, and then you are immersed into another reality and are surrounded by a virtual environment 360 degrees. And then augmented reality is where virtual objects come into our world through a screen. It can be an iPad or a phone, or someone even working on head devices for augmented reality as well. Very inspired. An example could be Pokemon Go that most people would know.
Right.
The children plays that was very popular a couple of years ago. That was also a virtual object, looking like it was in the real world through a camera lens.
So what we've done here is actually instead of doing a traditional fashion show, the graduates, the students have recorded some films in this 360 with 360 equipment basically, and you've helped them do this. You've guided them through this process. How did the project start from the beginning?
VR Design came and saw one of our other experiences at Copenhagen Fashion Week last August, a collaboration that we did with the World Bank called X-Ray Fashion. They were inspired by how we used storytelling and the tech to bring forth a message. In this instance, it was about the fast fashion industry and the darker side of the production. They wanted to see how we could merge that into their surroundings, their school, and into the into the universes of the designers. What was interesting for them to seek was not having a location-based happening anymore, like a catwalk show where it's 30 minutes, an hour, and the people you invite for that specific time need to be there in order to see it, and otherwise the moment has passed. In this instance, we've actually ended up creating a product that you can take with you afterwards. The 11 students can go out and they can promote themselves through their own channel with this experience, so you can show the universe, not just by being here, but virtually anywhere. And that was the really appealing aspect of them, that it was actually a transportable installation that could get you anywhere at any time you want it to be.
So instead of having the result of a fashion show, which is usually just a one camera angle filmed from straight up or maybe the back, you get something that's actually 360 and with the AR, which is super interesting, you can actually zoom in and come very, very close to the garments.
Yes, exactly. You can. The idea was both for a social media instance, so you could have something virtual, something digital that you could take away with you from this experience, sort of like a nice wrapping to the end of it, and that you could share afterwards. But also the fact that whenever you're out selling yourself afterwards to companies, it's not always that you can have a model available to go with you. In this instance, we then had the perfect conditions. They could choose exactly what model they wanted, style them, we could then scan them, and they look precisely how they want to project their clothes in the best common way. And this is how they can also show their collection afterwards without necessarily having to carry everything with them each time.
Were there international examples of this? We're seeing some of the installation is falling down behind us here. Were there international examples of this that you were looking at when you did this project, or did you sort of did it from scratch?
I think there's a lot of experimenting with new technologies within the fashion industry on a global view.
Global level?
Yes. So there's definitely some inspiration taken from different other things, but nothing like this before. I haven't seen anyone making a specific exhibition about showing fashion like this exhibition here.
Oh. I spoke to one of the students. They said also they had trouble doing research of similar projects. I was curious, how innovative are we here? Are we really spearheading something here?
The approach that we took for this collaboration, this installation, wasn't by looking necessarily at what others had been doing, but we tried to take the view of what would benefit the students best with the technology that we had at hand. We thought a lot about, to begin with, how interactive you should be within this with this installation. Should it just be one experience where you could do different things inside, or should we sort of start splitting it up? I lost my train of thought.
Yes,
that's fine.
The quite vital part that we quickly realized when working within fashion was a scanning of the clothes was not enough. It's only half of it. You really need to see how it flows and how it feels and how it's projected on a body. And that's why we quickly came to realize that it was super interesting and vital to have the photorealistic appeal within the productions. And that's why we chose not to make it a 3D experience where we've animated objects to make it a fashionable experience,
right,
but that we have actually gone out and shot all of these 11 films on a set.
Right.
Yep.
I think that's an interesting part of it, and I think when you say the words virtual reality, you think of some kind of computer-like, some kind of computer game-like environment. But when you actually look at these are essentially films. They are narratives. They're recorded in a location, and you can, when you spin your head, you can view it in 3D. And that's really what you're saying here.
Absolutely. Yes. It was important for us, as well as the students, that they would really not just make do with whatever that we came to serve them and say, this is what we've prepared for you, but it was vital for them to be able to express what emotions and what style they were going for, and then us going out and sort of gift wrapping that as best as we could. And that's why we have so many different locations, and even the locations we've used over and over again, we've really tried to look at it from a different cinematography point of view, that we've refurnished it, that we've rethought it with lights and with set design in total, so that it really demonstrates each of their universes.
So just a few words about your own background, because you also came from the VIA Design School.
We have not come from the VIA Design School. It's true that we're part of VIA University College. We have a background in filmmaking from VIA Film and Experience. Sorry, I fucked that up.
Film and Transmedia.
What's my own school called?
Yeah.
we come from
Via College University.
Right.
Is a bigger institution that has a lot of creative educations underneath it, and Via Design is one of them. And we graduated from one of the other schools called Via Film and Transmedia,
with another name also called Multi-Platform Storytelling and Production.
Very long, very complicated.
There you go. We graduated 3 years ago to this very day, and already the second year, Maria was very inspired by virtual reality. At this point, now you have to think back to 2014. When you mentioned virtual reality to anybody, nobody knew what you were talking about. Oculus had just got funding from Kickstarter. Facebook was just buying into the whole idea and technology of it all, and there wasn't really anything out there that we could see other than on the internet. And I mean, the whole thing has to be experienced within the head mount. It wasn't very accessible. So what we did was we toured the world. We went across seas to go to different festivals that were opening up for VR, amongst others Tribeca Film Festival. And here we really got inspired. We got to talk to the artists who at this point weren't hiding behind doors or anything, but were out there projecting their story and how they were using the tech and storytelling to merge together these two very different worlds. And that's how we came into VR.
Was there a moment when you realized that this is the thing to go for?
Maria knew it from the very start.
Yes, I think the reason why I got so interested in virtual reality from the start was because I always had a very childish mind. I'm very much about worlds, immersive worlds, and storytelling, and especially story worlds where you can dive into. And I think as a kid, I always was very excited about being a part of a story. And this sounds very cliche, but it is the truth. Especially I loved theme parks, I loved Disney World, I loved different things where I could actually go and be surrounded by the things that I love. And also when I went to school, I was very observed. I noticed that that's what people really like. When they like something, they want to be surrounded with it. And I could definitely feel that has been the way I've been thinking my whole life. Also with the Harry Potter generation, I really wish that I was part of the school. And I was very inspired by this whole transmedia and multimedia, new media theme. And then when we were introduced to virtual reality, for me at least, it just clicked right there. Like, this is the answer. This is the new chance, a new technology, and we can be in the front seat of this. And it's still open land for us to explore and dive into.
It was definitely a chance to be part of the pioneering field.
Yes.
And as much optimistic you were about the medium, as much skeptical I was. But I got dragged into a project with you, VR.
Not voluntarily.
And not voluntarily, no. And it started growing on me. And then when we had our final bachelor project, Separate Silences, that ended up going to Cannes and Venice Film Festival. And there we could really see the reactions of people within the virtual space when their entire body got integrated into it. So that's where we got hooked, and that we just can't stop.
Yep.
And that was it then that you realized you needed to actually incorporate this, do your own company, or was there other alternatives?
Well, you see, the thing is that we finished from film school in January, and we really wanted Separate Silences, which was our VR bachelor project, to go to Cannes Film Festival. But in order for that to happen, you have to have a company to apply to the film festival. So Maria, she got me a little drunk, and we signed the papers and applied for Cannes, and fortunately we got in, and the rest is history.
Yes.
Yes,
we're very lucky that we had exhibited some of our projects at Cannes Festival and Venedig Festival, and on different other festivals around the world. And so our projects, the reason why we came into the fashion industry is actually because we made a documentary called X-Ray Fashion together with the World Bank Climate Organization, Connect for Climate, and the American production company Vulcan Production. This cooperation was making a VR installation, not just a film, but it was more an installation and an experience where you also physically walk around between the different films and seeing the different stages of how
you see the different stages of how fast fashion garment production is. So right from the cotton production to the how it affects and pollutes the water supplements to the different communities that are close by, the conditions in a sweatshop, to then going over to how we overconsume in this world that we're living in, and then also the afterlife of clothing. What the heck actually happens when we send it for reuse or we just throw it away? Yeah.
It's a big subject. And this exhibition, from my understanding, it's alive now. It's traveling the world.
That is very true. We are going to Italy in a few weeks from now to showcase it at another fashion conference. As Maria mentioned, it started out at Venice Film Festival. Then we've been touring North America with it at different conferences, fashion conferences, the majority of it. We also were invited for the UN Environmental Assembly in Kenya. And we lived a month in Doha, showing it at Qatar museums. It actually just had its Danish premiere a few months ago, so we're very happy and fortunate that...
Yes, and we have some plans on also exhibiting in Scandinavia soon, both in Copenhagen and hopefully at CIFF maybe until in the summer, upcoming CIFF.
Yes, so people should expect to see a lot more of it within the Scandinavian region within next year.
Right. So on the topic of fashion and technology, and this is where I think it's interesting, because I think there's a lot of opportunity, but there's a lot of things that are not being done. How do you view it? If you came into it via film and via technology and all the opportunities that you're obviously able to give with what you're doing, what are some of the things you think should be done in fashion when it comes to technology?
I think there's one approach that I think is very interesting regarding technology and fashion, is that I just recently heard that some designers and also via design here at the school that we collaborated with are getting so interested in technology and especially 3D modeling and made this whole approach about designing in 3D. And I think that could be very valuable for everyone, both for the designers and also for the customers and for the environment. Because if you design your clothes in 3D first, you can do it very easily through virtual reality tools. They are more available at the time now. But also you can test out your clothes and your designs quickly to the market and see if there's any potential. And then also bigger brands can sell it online, perhaps through virtual reality or augmented reality, and then they don't have to produce too much that goes to waste afterwards. They can produce
there
more
will
precisely.
hardly be any waste. And this is
hopefully.
really when we're looking at how supply and demand will meet in an equilibrium. And that's when it'll all start making a lot more sense in terms of sustainability and how we should approach not only fashion, but really our entire lives in the future, right?
Yeah, I definitely think that designing in 3D is a very exciting topic of technology and fashion that I think via design is very clever to look into at the moment.
What we're also noticing quite a lot of tendency on, we're also noticing a lot of sorry, editor. What we're also noticing quite a lot of attention on is how augmented reality will go in and really shift the whole idea of what is fashion. Just imagine in 5 years from now, are we even going to pick out the colors at the store? Or will we just have kind of a blank canvas that we walk around with and then we can program it to look differently through wearables? This can be glasses that have a technological advancement to them, and it can look like particles are shooting out, or you're choosing green and blue stripes one day, and then you go over to something very mellow the next day.
So in an extreme case, we could all be walking around with sort of white t-shirts and white pants, and with the glasses we have on, you then see different types of garments or prints or stuff.
Or do we see any garments at all? Oh,
yes,
that's true.
I think it's definitely far out there yet, but I know that this is the way it's heading as well. I know Carlings just did an experiment with some t-shirts and augmented reality. They were just doing some. This was mostly for social media, maybe, but the idea is really interesting for them to have one T-shirt with one logo and then scanning a different print on it through augmented reality, and so it's a little step that way. And I know a lot of people are experimenting with technology and fashion, so it is evolving.
I think personally, I don't think buying a digital garment to put on your Instagram or social media, I don't think the market for that is going to be that huge. What I do think is interesting is using the new platforms like Roblox or Fortnite or all these worlds that the new generation. My daughter is 9, and she likes fashion because her parents like fashion, and she likes clothes, but she also likes what she has in that world, and she communicates with her friends in that world. And then when she makes a wish, what we want to buy for her, it's something in the digital sphere. It's like, can I get more Robux so I can buy some new, sword or a horse or whatever. What do you think of that? I mean, because that I think is a great opportunity for designers, because these are actually digital objects that you have to design, and there are many people making an argument for that fashion brands should go in, like Dior should do stuff in these arenas. What do you think of that? Do you look at that at all?
But exactly because of this point, I think what Maria was talking about before with the whole AR application to clothing is going to be so big that in the future, why aren't we going to wish for a different kind of design that we're going to be wearing in the future, or wearing on that day that everybody can see? I think that relates to a lot of the mentality that we're going to see being projected in from 10 years from now instead. That these are the assets that we're wanting to obtain, the digital assets rather than the physical.
Right.
I think we are living in a global world, and everything is so multimedia, and we are connected on different networks and different platforms. So I think that's very natural that suddenly the game world should merge into the fashion industry, because the young audience are so used to new technology. They will expect different experiences in the future, also from the fashion industry, whenever they want it to be excited. And I think it is a market and an opportunity for the fashion industry and for brands to dive into the gaming worlds and other industries for collaborations, and because there is a huge market as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there.
I mean, just imagine after having seen Hunger Games, seeing them strolling down through that pave where she goes on fire, and it's all eccentric and crazy. You can actually be her one day, just through wearables. Like, people are going to want that. You're going to buying digital fire, and it's going to be costing a lot of money, and you're going to own up to it.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty about virtual reality and augmented reality. Suddenly you're not just bound to physical boundaries. You can just break the limits and, as Signe mentioned, make fire on the clothes that's moving or doing particles around you and all that kind of stuff.
Your identity is just going to be even more explicit. It's going to be fantastic.
Right. So where are we as on the consumer level? Because I don't, see all my friends having these headsets at home. And why is that? Where do you think is there some kind of shift that we need to see to see this technology really take off?
I think we are waiting for the big players, and especially I know Apple is very secretly about their work with augmented reality and virtual reality. From a technical perspective, and when we've been following the whole technical development, we know that everybody is working on wearables, as Signe mentioned. So goggles that we will probably have in the future, it's going to replace the phone and the whole way we communicate. And especially augmented reality, I think, will be very important for the way we communicate. And we're still waiting for Apple to release their device. There's been some rumors, and they keep pushing it whenever they want to really release it. And I think they want to make sure that it's big.
So some kind of glasses, or?
Yes, I think that's the future of communication for everyone. And I think as soon as that's there, a lot of things are going to be developed from that. So we're still waiting for, as you mentioned as well, Conrad, for it to be more normal to have these kind of glasses and this technology accessible.
Because I feel like there's some kind of tipping point that has to happen. It's got to be, is it 5-6 years now that Google Glass came and went? It was like one season, everyone's talking about it. I remember I was editor of a fashion magazine. We had it on the cover, like now the future is coming, and boom, nothing happened.
No, I don't think the technology or the people were ready for it.
No.
I also heard some rumors, I don't know if it's true, that Microsoft actually had a smartphone in the 18th or the 19th or stuff like that, and people were just like, that's fucking weird. That's not anything you would ever use. No. So it's very much about also it looking good, people being so familiar to something similar. So, and it's like easy aging it over. I think it can't be just introduced like Google Glasses, bang. And also because Google Glasses could not do everything that we probably thought it could do, like doing a virtual environment everywhere around you. Google Glasses couldn't do that, and it didn't. Google Glasses did not know the dimension of space as well, and that's what they're working on now, trying to do more advanced glasses.
So do you think in the future we're going to have some sort of glasses or some sort of device that will enable both AR and VR at the same time? So you could sort of choose to be completely VR or have the sort of AR elements with the real world?
I think that's going to come with contact lenses. Everybody, please watch Black Mirror.
All right.
Crazy.
Yes, Black Mirror, good series.
If we can just go back to the Google glasses quickly, I think we also have to remember that who's the most skeptical of all? Well, it's consumers. And the Google glasses, they did skip over a lot of steps in order to merge this correctly onto the market. Unfortunately for them, the most viral video also for Google Glasses was of two porn stars having sex, taking pictures and filming each other. And I think all of this merging together freaked people the heck out.
Right.
Yes, even more than phones did when they came out with cameras. So it takes a lot of time and adjustment for people to get used to it. We're so skeptical about everything to start off with. And gradually, we get more and more used to it. But Google Glasses, they were unfortunately 3 or 4 steps too far in that process in order for us to...
Are there other on that note, are there other applications to this technology that you could have that would enable it to be more socially acceptable? I'm thinking within healthcare or like doctors using the technology to get information while they're doing surgery, stuff like that would enable it to be more like, I don't know, societal, service instead of, as you said, a porn star viral video that sort of kills the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are seeing VR and AR getting applied in a lot of different sectors. I know for a fact here in Denmark that the healthcare is taking it pretty seriously. Rehabilitation and training is major when it comes to VR and AR. So I think it is already getting a lot more socially accepted than it was just 2 years ago. Remember 4 years ago when Maria and I were walking around saying we were creating VR and AR, people were still asking, what's the definition of that? What the heck is it?
Right.
Now people have started saying, oh yeah, I have actually tried that once or twice. And I think in just 2 years from now, people will be like, yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point. I know exactly how you do it. I understand the infographics of it. I know what it's all about. And I don't think we'll come to a point, as Maria was saying before, where everybody will own a head mount because they're skipping that step for the thing that's better. They're still big, they're still chunky, and some people find it still quite expensive compared to the limitations you can do with this glass or head mount versus what you can do with your phone. So as soon as the phone gets merged a lot more into these wearables where you can have your AR and VR and applications on, I think that's where we're really going to hit a silver spot right there.
Interesting. So going back to this exhibition and you work with the designers, I think one thing that's so good about this exhibition that you've done and that the school has done is to expose designers for new technologies, as opposed to being stuck at sort of an old type model where they're only producing physical garments to be sold in physical stores and so forth. And I think that the world of fashion is in need of innovation in so many ways. And one of the ways is it has to start with the designer. So doing this project, has the students, the designers been optimistic about this technology, or are they hesitant, or both, or what's the experience been like?
I think they've been very open-minded. It's the Via Design School has a tradition of doing a very traditional catwalk show as for their final graduates. And I know a lot of the students were really looking forward to that. So at first it was a disappointment, I think. But as there's many other things, you just need to be open-minded. As long as you are that, they've quickly found it very interesting with this new technology and saw some new possibilities in this way of showing their fashion. Also because suddenly they have a tool that they can actually bring with them from the school and showing it, their collection in other ways. And I'm very excited about, as you mentioned as well, these designers are the future of and the next generation of the fashion industry. And now they are already a little more open-minded about technology. They have had some experience with it, and hopefully that will make them stand out to the industry as well. And some of them are going to be designers, some of them are maybe going to be hired for something else, and now they will always have this idea that there's more out there than just the traditional ways.
I mean, it's fantastic that VIA has created 11 ambassadors for the next generation of fashion and the digital era, so to speak. And not only that, but I think a lot of visitors that have also come throughout the last 3 days have also really gotten their eyes open for the opportunities. So I think at least we've got 11 ambassadors, but I think a whole lot more has come throughout the last couple of days.
Yeah.
The industry needs this push,
Yes.
and I think it's great that VIA Design they took the measures to take the first step there.
How do you see the next step for your company then that you had to create for your films? Do you think you will be able to sort of sell your services to other brands, other companies, or are you more like filmmakers doing the next project? How do you see your business and organization?
I think it's a mix. VR and AR is still unfamiliar for many, and it's still also a little harder to do, bigger and heavy as productions. So, and of course we want to have a sustainable business, so there will be bigger projects out there and smaller projects and something experimenting. We have a lot of good, I think, experience with the fashion industry, starting from our first project, and we would love to do more experimenting within that field. And we're just very passionate about doing creative projects and see what these technologies can do. And not necessarily just for fashion, but fashion is a very good industry because there are so many creative people in there as well, a lot of good collaborations. And I think for our company, I know a lot of people in VR is working within healthcare or within in enterprise solutions. Usually that's also where there is some more money because it's more about learning. But we are very creative, Signe and I, and we love these kind of creative projects, and that's why fashion industry is very appealing because there's a lot of other creative minds there.
I mean, storytelling is key to us. Wherever there's storytelling in tech, we're there as well.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's also good for fashion. It's still an industry that are used to visual expression and used to doing movies and advertising and so forth. So taking the step shouldn't be too far. But maybe it is. I don't know. How are you talking to the brands? Are you talking to companies? What do you say to them when you're talking about the opportunities that this technology gives? What should they do?
Usually it's always people who has their own ideas and are just curious. So and asking into what can we use this for, and could you use it for this? And then we try to explain them, yes, that could be possible, but we still have the technology that's here. So it's more about, I think, them asking questions about the technology, and then we will answer it, because we know we can't necessarily force it on people, because we have a lot of ideas of how it can be used, but that's heavy production budgets and heavy productions. So it's about taking it in small steps, I think, for us, when we introduce people to these technologies, listening to them, answering their questions, and then slowly pushing them into experimenting.
The majority of the customers that we've already had through and that we imagine come in the future are people that approach us rather than them. And for that reason, Maria was elaborating on that people need to get their eyes open for it, but they don't need to feel pushed into it, since it can be a big leap for many. So they have to think that it's their brilliant idea, and that we're just the tool makers. We're just the ones that sort of make it come together in the end.
So there needs to be a basic level of understanding of the technology and how you use it.
Absolutely. We have a difficult time selling any VR AR product if they haven't experienced it beforehand. Words are really poor in that essence. Yes. Yep.
So do you have a dream project, something that you really want to realize with your work?
Oh, there's many. I am.
You asked the dreamer.
Yes, I'm very creative, and I have so many ideas. By working with this collaboration with VIA Design, and they already talked about future collaborations as well, and what should be done next year. My little head is already developing ideas and thinking about how we can make this even better. So definitely interested in seeing the next year's maybe graduate project.
We're always looking at what technology is available, not necessarily always what's on the shelf ready to take and implement, but how do we merge different techs in order to create something that's new thinking, something that will provoke people, but that will also be appealing to them. How do we create empathy and such? Maria and I were very keen on going into a lot more interactivity with completely 3D generated worlds. We're very fascinated at real-time actors being in the experience, manipulating with your experience, so you can get a completely unique essence of a story.
Like a computer game, or like a
pretty
game.
Much like a computer game, yes. But instead
merging
of
different industries, I would say, like merging games, theater, and film, and stuff like that.
That's exactly what we do, yes. But we love the social aspect of it, so getting a lot more people intertwined in an experience together and making that sort of more collaborative state. That's where we're heading on. Yep.
I think it's interesting, and perhaps this is something that will change. I mean, you guys are essentially filmmakers in the beginning, and we're only talking about it from a technological standpoint because it's something that we don't grasp or really understand. Someone told me recently that we only use the word technology on something that we really don't understand. That's something that's ahead of us. We don't talk about television as technology. That's just there to support the storytelling or whatever. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in the years to come. When perhaps you're not the AR company, you're just a film company that works within different technologies.
Perhaps for now we like to call ourselves XR,
Yes,
because
XR.
that's sort of that's a good overall umbrella term for everything that's within the immersive media
What does
industry.
XR mean? Experience.
Well, it's XR is an umbrella term for immersive media content. So
Right.
either VR, AR, MR, you name it.
Yes, and it stands for extended realities.
Extended realities.
Yes.
Boom.
And immersive. What does immersive mean?
I think it can mean many different things. People are always discussing, well, what is VR? To what extent is VR, and how do you get immersed? And I think an even much more interesting term than immersion, because immersion is essentially how tech helps you get into another world, but it's the gadgets, it's the peripherals, it's the head mount. The next step of immersion is presence, how you actually feel that you're within another world, and that's a very subjective state. So that's really the fun. What do you call it?
That's the interesting part.
That's the fun goal of it all, getting people to feel like they're actually there and submerging them into the different worlds. So that was immersion. That's presence.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to see the developments, and I think we should do this again sometime, maybe in a year or so, and see where we're at then. I think probably a lot will have happened.
Maybe we'll be sitting at CIFF again at Era 360 #2.
Yes.
Let's do that.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much
Conrad.
for having us.
This has been The Innovators, an interview show from Scandinavian Man with me, Conrad Olsen. We'll be back soon with more conversations on design, culture, fashion, technology, and sustainability. For more news and interviews from the Scandinavian fashion and culture scene, visit scandinavianman.com. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.